Whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait, what's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Hit the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah, big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper, off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you got to have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have a YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites.
Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites podcast on polaropposites.podbean.com, also on iTunes and live right now on Spreaker.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
Is Craig Moffitt.
Craig.
Manny, how you feeling?
Holy crap-a-doos, have so many... The NBA, if only the regular season and the postseason was exciting as the offseason for the NBA, it might be the most popular sport.
Well, you just got to get this feeling that things are like flying out of left field. And all of a sudden, Kyrie Irving wants to be traded.
Of course.
And I mean...
And people are
outside
killing
that, it was
Kyrie,
quiet.
right? People are killing him.
I don't understand why.
Because they think, here's the thing, they're saying that he's not good enough to win without LeBron, which I think everybody thinks, but I don't want him thinking that.
No, of course you don't want, I mean, it's going to take a lot. We're going to get to it in a few minutes. We got a lot to do. We're going to talk a little bit. We have an article that just came out about how 99% of retired NFL players have CTE.
Or as I like to call it, the high horse report.
Yeah.
Because everyone's, I told you, football is dangerous. You're going to get head injuries.
We got a training camp starts this week. A few teams have actually already reported. Dallas, Arizona. I think Philly also has already reported.
Giants 27, Jets 28.
Yeah. So we'll do a little bit of we have a over-under on win totals for this year?
On wins from Vegas, and we also have Sports Illustrated predicted every team's record before training camp begins.
Yeah.
Because, the Packers going 10-5 or 10-6, and then Aaron Rodgers tears his knee up in the first week. Come on, guys.
Of course. No, that's not even nothing. ESPN already has predictions who the 53-man roster will be.
Okay, before we start, and we'll get started in a second, I would like to make a plea to everybody.
Go.
We don't need 24 hours of news. If you're ESPN, you can pick an 8-hour window every day where you don't have to release something new unless something happens.
Yeah.
You can have the ability to release news 24 hours a day, but that doesn't mean you have to. That doesn't mean you have to do ludicrous articles like picking out the 53-man roster for teams that haven't even put out a pad yet.
Yeah, that's just like blog writers that don't know, who really just have nothing else to write about. And the thing is with football, is like they're doing everything they possibly can to make football a year-round sport.
And it is, except for the month of June and July until training camps.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get every other month but those two, so relax. Anyway.
Here we go. The top 4 local stories of the week, or 2 weeks. We've had a show for a couple weeks. So here we go. Number 1, the Yankees won their first series since the beginning of June, taking 3 out of 4 against the Seattle Mariners. Their new bullpen acquisitions, Dave Robertson and Tim Connell, were solid in relief, and Aaron Judge got back to doing what he does best, hitting homers 31 and 32 on the season. After acquiring Connell, Robertson, and Todd Frazier from the White Sox last week, the Yankees may not be done. They're in the market for a starting pitcher and have reportedly spoken to the A's about Sonny Gray and the Rangers regarding Yu Darvish, and even checked in with the Marlins about Giancarlo Stanton. Matty, what I want to know is, are the Yankees all in on a World Series title this year?
First of all, it's Canely.
Is it Canely? Okay.
It is.
My apologies.
And well, no, it's just enjoyable for me to be able to correct you, since it's usually the other way around. So I'm just take a moment
I was the one who was pushing for the
and-
segment of Matt's errors for the week.
and enjoying it as we go. This is I'm gonna sort of hedge a bet here, but this is the only way to answer this because I think this is actually what they are. I think outwardly the Yankees are very much we are the Yankees. We try to win a World Series every year. Okay, but I think inwardly they're not willing to risk. Gleyber Torres isn't going for either one of these pitchers.
No.
Okay, Chance Adams is not going for either one of these pitchers. All right, you may get a couple of guys that are in Double-A right now, but I don't think you're getting any of the guys in Triple-A. And so I think that's what, because I think if they were really all in, nobody would be off the table except for the guys on the 40-man roster right now,
Right.
Clint Frazier and Judge and all those guys. But I think they're like half pregnant. They this year has taken them by surprise. The Red Sox inability to run away with the division when the Yankees over the last month and a half were literally the worst team in baseball and only got and gained about 6 games, but are now only 2 games in front, has made this sort of like a weird thing for the Yankees. They know they're not good enough to win the World Series. They're not beating the Astros in a playoff series, and they're definitely not beating the Dodgers or the Nationals with their pitching and hitting in the other leagues. So I think that they will do something. I don't want either one of those pitchers. I don't want any one of those 3 players. To me, that's not the problem. I think they addressed the problem. I think the trade they made is good enough to get them to the playoffs this year.
I don't know if the Stanton deal. Well, I don't even think the Marlins are going to trade Stanton because they're still in the middle of a sale, and and I think you got to have somebody to build around, right? I mean, that's why you gave him $300 million.
Well, also we already have Mike Stanton. We just have right now a better version of him. Sorry, Giancarlo Stanton. Freaking stupid
Right.
Mike. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what's he going to do? Where is he going to play? Is he going to DH? And then you put a glut at that position.
And the thing is, you're not going to get Stanton. I mean, I don't know how serious the Yankees were about Stanton. I mean, it could just been like maybe
I'm sure
messing
they
around.
just asked.
They could just been messing around and just said, "Oh, what would it take to get Stanton off your team?"
But for me, Sonny Gray and Yu Darvish aren't good enough for me to give up any of my top 10 prospects. I know Sonny Gray is under control, which is why people are going to ask for more. But I'm not doing it. I'm just not because look, in a 4-game set, say right, with the Yankees bullpen right now, my starting pitcher has to go 4 innings. He has to go 4 innings. You could throw Chad Green, Adam Warren, Canley, Betances, Robertson, and Chapman. I mean, it's insane.
Well, here's what I think. I think the Rangers are worried that they're not going to bring back Darvish, so I think they're just trying to get something for him. I think he's a free agent after this year.
Oh, if you want to give him to me for really nothing, I'll take him. But I'm not giving up any big guys.
I think they're going to try. Listen, I don't know what they're going to be asking for, but I think they're worried they may not be able to re-sign him. So that's why they're taking offers, or they're just feeling out what his value is.
Sonny Gray's going to cost more.
Sonny Gray's going to cost more, and it's just a question of whether the Yankees want to pay it.
Right.
Okay. I mean,
I wouldn't. What I'm saying.
I mean, now Cashman might, because he might give a little bit more because he needs a guy for the rotation. Pineda's out for the year with Tommy John. Tanaka's been very up and down. And then on top of that, Montgomery's been a little shaky. He's pitched good, he's pitched bad. Severino's been one of the really kind of stalwarts of pretty much the entire rotation.
And CeCe.
And CeCe's actually pitched pretty well since he came back. So right now, out of the 5, you have 2 guys who are looking good now, but when it comes postseason, you never know. And with Tanaka's been all over the place. I think you can't really argue that. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not a weakness. Like, I don't want people to think I'm saying the Yankees
I'm not
starting
saying
pitching is a strength. What I'm saying is that for where we are right now and where we want to be in the next couple of years, you're telling me that Sonny Gray, and let's just look up Sonny Gray, shall we? Because it's always fun to see what we're talking about. But the package that I heard was a bunch of Double-A players. It was like Jorge Mateo. Is it
right.
It's G-R-A-Y,
I think
right?
it's G-R-A-Y.
Oh, there we go. It was a bunch of Double-A players with Jorge Mateo as the leader, who in Double-A, since he got promoted to Double-A, he's actually played better than he has in any other the system of the minor leagues. Sonny Gray. All right, let's see here. Pitching. 5-3 with a 2.67. That's 2013. That's in 12. That's in 10 starts. 14. He was 14-10. Don't look at the records. Not really. It's 3.8 ERA. The year was 2015. He pitched to a 2.73 ERA. Since then, he's pitched to a 5.69 and a 3.66. Mm-hmm. And he's pitching to a 3.66 in freaking Oakland. It's
No,
not Yankee Stadium where where
Again,
a pop up is a homer.
Again, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know. To me, this trade deadline, Robertson went. That was probably one of the big time players that was going to go.
I was shocked the Nationals weren't more in on that.
Yeah,
and
so
willing
was
to
I
send
because
some
I really
stuff.
thought they were going to. But then they made the deal to get Doolittle, and they got
but
Ryan Madsen.
But think about what the Yankees gave up to get Canley and Robertson and Todd Frazier.
Unless it was just a straight up salary dump, which it probably was.
Well,
too.
it was for Frazier. So the Yankees took all of Frazier, and that was good for the White Sox. But what the Yankees gave up for them, was the third player in their system. But you're talking about a guy who's in Double-A for the Yankees, who may never have seen the Major League field anyway. The way Frazier's playing and the way Judge is playing, where are you going to put him?
No, that's true. It's a fair point.
And so they basically
they traded from a. They had
strength.
They had the assets.
Yeah.
They had the strength to from a place of strength because that's what they did last year when they pretty much. They missed the playoffs, but they sold high on Chapman and Miller, and they got a lot of prospects. What I see is, I mean, they could make the deal for Sonny Gray if they really wanted to. I don't really know if it's going to make them any better than what they already are. I mean, it'll definitely be an improvement in the rotation to an extent, but I don't really think it's going to be the deciding factor in them making the postseason because I think they could be well equipped to make the postseason as a wild card.
Well, yeah, I agree. And I mean, if you look at Darvish now, his numbers are more consistent. He's basically a 3.5 pitcher. It's basically what he is. His career, he's a 3.32 ERA. Forget about record again because sometimes you're on bad teams and sometimes you're on good teams. You look at ERA and that sort of thing. I would probably I'd be more willing to take Darvish because I think I'd have to give up less.
Yeah.
And it's just a one and done sort of thing, and I don't think they would re-sign him. But
right now, look.
But if they did nothing, I would be totally fine with that too.
Here's what I say about the Yankees real quick before we get to the next thing. They're only 2.5 games out behind Boston.
2.
Okay. Is it 2 now? So did Boston lose last night?
Yeah, it's 4 in the win column. They're tied in the loss, and the Red Sox have 4 more wins.
It's been so that AL East has been so volatile. Because remember, the Yankees were there for a while. Then Boston went on that huge winning streak. The Yankees kind of fell back a bit, and then they wound up losing all those series. Now it seems like it's kind of going the other way, where the Yankees are starting to gain a little bit of momentum. They have a 2-game series against the Reds starting tonight before they have a big series, I think, against Tampa.
Yeah, big series.
It's a very big series at the stadium against Tampa. Boston is still on the West Coast. They're playing Seattle, I think, for 3 right now. So I think it's going to be like this the rest of the year. And to be honest, this trade deadline, it just feels weak. I don't really see that big-time stud. I've been reading about the Cubs.
There isn't any.
The Cubs interested in Verlander, who's been bad this year, and possibly getting Alex Avila. But outside of that, I really haven't seen much. I'll put it this way. The trade the Twins made the other day to get Jaime Garcia, I actually liked for them because
didn't that get canceled?
No, I don't. I heard it happened yesterday.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Okay.
I heard there was some problem with the medical, and then
But I think he's officially a member of the Twins, and then the Royals made the deal with the Padres to get a couple of pitchers as well. So those are the types of deals I think you're going to see at this deadline. I don't really think you're going to see that huge move unless somebody's really willing to give up a big-time player to get.
I mean, if you look at it, everyone is really close, with the exception of the Western divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, and the last place teams. But like Detroit is 7.5 out, which you would say is sort of too many games to be out at this point. But when you're talking about in division where you still have plenty of games in your division, 7.5 isn't that many.
Yeah.
There are too many teams that are too close, especially when you count the second wild card. Because if you count the second wild card, even more teams are in. Even teams like the freaking Blue Jays are I mean, they're not in it, but you don't understand what they're close enough to where they could say, we want to keep going. And so I think that's what's making it, because the teams that need stuff right now, the teams that have stuff to trade, all the teams that are like in last place don't have stuff to trade, or like the Blue Jays where this is just a fluke year and they're going to try again next year.
Yeah.
So they're not trading Donaldson. I mean, I don't think so. Now, unless somebody wants to go out and
unless they get
Bautista.
blown out of the water for a package,
Right.
I mean, you may not have a choice, but the
I
Blue Jays
doubt
just
it.
had a bad season. They could bounce
The
back
Mets
next year.
just had a bad season, but they're going to trade guys off, and we're going to get to that now.
Before we get into that, I want to say one thing.
Sure.
I think we're really good at predicting things.
Okay.
Okay? And I'm going to give you an example. While everyone was on the Seattle Mariners bandwagon, you and I both said they were overrated. And we were
Always.
right. For everyone that was on the Orioles bandwagon, what was the one thing we said about the Orioles that was going to kill them all year?
Starting pitching.
Thank you. And their starting pitching is
And
atrocious.
the thing is that for the past couple years, their starting pitching was bad, but they had enough hitting, and their bullpen wasn't hurt, so it didn't hurt them.
But
this
even
year,
their
their bullpen
bullpen
injury has been so bad,
and even
that it can't
O'Day
make up
hasn't
for
been
it.
that great in the bullpen.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just feel like we're really good at predicting these types of things.
Yeah, we're pretty good at predicting danger and death and destruction. You know what I mean? All right, number 2. The Mets won 5 out of 6. Won 5.
The Mets have.
Oh, there we go. The Mets have won
Really?
5 out of 6 last night after last night's win at San Diego, but that won't prevent them from being sellers at the July 31st trade deadline. The Dodgers are the latest team to show interest in closer Addison Reed, and the Red Sox are interested in either Asdrubal Cabrera or T.J. Rivers. It's Rivera, right?
Sorry.
Okay, that's right. For third base. But, of course, drama follows. The Mets are everywhere they go. And the latest are comments Yoenis Cespedes made to the San Francisco Chronicle saying he would like to finish his career with the A's, and also said that manager Bob Melvin is his favorite manager and is the best manager of baseball, which many took as a slap in the face to manager Terry Collins. Cespedes clarified his comments later, saying about New York, "This is my home. This is my team." What I want to know is, Craig, was Cespedes' comments about playing for the A's much ado about nothing?
I think it was, but I mean, for crying out loud, did you like? It doesn't make any sense to say something like that. I mean, look, if you want to say, "Wow, Bob Melvin's a great manager" or whatever, but like to literally come out and say, "Well, I really want to finish my career in Oakland." I don't know many players that would honestly say that with how bad Oakland has been for so many years.
Also, do you know anybody who wants to live in Oakland? Have you ever met? You know, I'm moving
I mean,
to
you
Oakland.
must be like honestly, Yoenis Cespedes must be the only guy who thinks Billy Beane is a good general manager.
Oh my God, it's brutal.
Okay. Like, again, do I think it's much ado about nothing? Yes. Do I understand why he said it? No. I have no clue why he would even say that. I mean, listen, like I said, if you want to heap praise on Bob Melvin, I got no problem with that. You know, most players do that. You know, they'll say, like, nice things about managers or whatever.
I don't know
but
if I'd
to say,
call him
like,
the best manager in
but
the
I mean,
whole
you
world.
see what I mean? Is like, yeah, he's the best manager in baseball. And Terry Collins is sitting there going, like, really? I mean, like, my own player is telling me that the guy on the opposing team that we're facing this weekend is the best manager. These are the types of dumb things that kind of, you know, sometimes players, I think, don't understand what they're saying, or they meant to say it one way, but it almost gets lost in translation.
Sure.
In a way. So, no, I don't think, listen, Cespedes is going to be here for 4 years, not going anywhere. But pretty much, I mean, I just don't understand why he would say that. But I mean, again, sometimes players just either don't understand what they're trying to say and it comes out a little different, or maybe he really did mean it. I don't know. I mean, Terry played it off. He was just like, whatever. He's like, he's on my team. That's all I really care about. Now, getting to the Mets at the trade deadline. The problem with the Mets right now is that there's just no market for a lot of their players, with outside of maybe Addison Reed and Jerry Blevins. The thing is that Jay Bruce market is starting to cool a little bit because the Diamondbacks are interested, but they wound up getting J.D. Martinez from the Tigers.
Right.
And as such, Bruce would have had to waive his no trade to go to Arizona, which I think he would have done because they are in the wild card hunt right now with Colorado. But outside of that, there isn't really a lot of interest in these guys, and there isn't a lot of interest in Asdrubal Cabrera, which is why they're trying to move him to third base to see if it generates something.
Right.
Not necessarily getting a blue chip prospect, but just getting him off the team, and you know, even if it means maybe paying a little bit of the salary. With guys like Neil Walker, who's been hurt most of the year, Curtis Granderson, is not a lot of people looking for outfielders right now. Bruce, not a lot of people looking for outfielders. Your two main tradable pieces that you should probably focus on trading are Addison Reed and Jerry Blevins. Jerry Blevins is a pretty solid lefty specialist, while Addison Reed has been a good closer, but he probably won't be a closer if he goes to another team.
Sure, of course.
He'll probably be a seventh inning or eighth inning guy. Those are the two guys
Which
that
increases his value.
Exactly. And those are the two guys that are going to have your most value, and those are the guys you should probably focus on trading at the deadline.
First of all, I can't believe they're considering trading T.J. Rivera. It
I don't think
boggles the mind
here's
that
the
his
thing.
name even came up.
It was a name that came up. I don't really think the Mets are trading him. It was just a name that came up that the Red Sox were interested in because he's under team control for like another 3 or 4 years, and he's hitting. He's one of the best hitters we have.
He's hit over 300 at every level of the minor leagues, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, like, he's another guy they're putting at third base right now with, you know, because Reyes is at short until they bring Rosario up. So right now, and he could play multiple positions. So that's really a guy I don't want to let go unless I'm getting back like a really nice package for him. But again, it's T.J. Rivera. He doesn't hit for power, but he does hit for average.
Right.
So he's a pretty strong hitter. But he's not going to break the bank for you to get prospects, is my point.
The Mets are in a pickle here because, as you said, a lot of their pieces aren't untradeable. There's just no market for them, as you said. I think Cleveland might be a decent spot for somebody like Jay Bruce to go to because he can play first, he can play outfield, he could DH if you need him to. But other than that, you're right. And look, that hamstrings you. Now,
there's been a lot of talk.
The Mets have to be willing here to take a hit because if the best package that you get for Addison Reed or Jerry Blevins comes from, say, the Nationals, you have to take it. They can't say, oh, we're not going to do that, this, that, and the other thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who they're even going to trade Addison Reed to at this point. I mean, we're talking about the Dodgers. Yeah,
the Dodgers are a team. There's been a few teams. I know the Diamondbacks they were another team interested in him. Okay. And, I didn't hear like 50 teams interested, but I did hear of a few. Like the Yankees were interested before they got Robertson, and
I'm not even sure how much they're going to get for those guys at this point because as much as the Dodgers might want to get something like that, they don't need it. You know what I mean? They might need it eventually, but
they may need it as a bridge.
The Mets need a team for a team's closer to get hurt.
Yeah.
And then they could flease that team for Addison Reed and maybe throw in Jerry Blevins.
Unless there's a team like, for example, like if the Rockies are going to go all in for the wild card, and they're not going to catch up with the Dodgers, but if they want to go all in just to solidify the back end of their bullpen, but their bullpen's actually been pretty strong this year.
Right.
So that's that's always a possibility. You could, I don't think the Cubs will be interested in any of those guys. I don't think, if you really want to trade him to the Nationals, I wouldn't have an issue trading him to the Nationals if I know I'm not really in it this year. Because if I know I can get more and they need bullpen help, I have to look at every option. I can't sit there and say, man, I really don't want to see Addison Reed win a World Series with the Nationals. Because if he's not going to be on my team next year anyway, then I might as well try to get what I can for him, especially for a team that's desperate for relief help.
Right. So
I have to leave no stone unturned here. I have to look at every option, every team that calls. I know I'm not going to get a AAA Major League ready prospect right now, but I think the key is going to be getting depth for the farm system. Because look, Lucas Duda is another guy. He's a guy that I think could help an AL team as a DH and a first baseman. He's got a good bat, but again, what's the market? There's no market for him right now because everybody's pretty much set. All the playoff teams are set. The only team that may want to go after him, and again, I use the Yankees, but you can flip-flop Frazier and Headley between first and third.
Plus, so you got Garrett Cooper over there, and you got other
so you
guys.
Don't really need them.
No, they're not.
So again, the Mets. It's not really a case of the Mets missing the window.
No,
it's just a case
there was no window.
There just wasn't anything there because if you're going to trade him, you're basically trading him for 50 cents on the dollar.
I agree.
Number 3, the Knicks are one of 4 teams that are on Kyrie Irving's wish list after requesting a trade out of Cleveland. The Spurs, Heat, and Timberwolves are the other 3 options. Irving reportedly no longer wants to play alongside LeBron James and is now accusing James of leaking his initial trade request. The Cavs signed Derrick Rose to a 1-year deal, which could make an Irving trade more likely. Rumors are already circulating about a possible 3-team deal where the Knicks would get Irving and Tyson Chandler. The Cavs would receive Carmelo Anthony and Eric Bledsoe, and the Suns would land Kevin Love and Knicks first-round pick Frank Ntilikina, as well as draft picks. Maddie, what I want to know is Kyrie Irving the missing piece for the Knicks to make a playoff run?
I mean, if Kyrie's on the Knicks, do they make the playoffs? Yes. Assuming they don't get rid of Porzingis or Hernan Gomez. And if that's the trade, sign me up. I'll pack the bags for all the guys who need to go. Now, I imagine there's picks involved there. Now, as long as the Knicks don't lose more than 1 first-round pick, I'm okay with it. But I can't, because I was saying this to somebody today. I can't have the Knicks trade for Kyrie, have Kyrie and Porzingis, a 24 and a 23-year-old, right? And then not have a first-round pick for the next 3 years or a high first-round pick the next 3 years to find that third piece to fit with those 2 guys. It doesn't make any sense.
We already have the third piece. You have Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah. To find the third piece so that those guys can be good, okay? Now, is Tim Hardaway Jr. good? He'll be fine. He'll score probably 20 points a game or whatever and blah, blah, blah. But the team's not built around him. It'll be built around Kyrie and Porzingis. Now, if you put Tyson Chandler and Hernan Gomez and then you play Porzingis at the 3, well, your team's going to be it's going to be huge. Knicks are going to lead the league in blocks. No one's going to be driving in that lane. But that's not going to be the trade. If the Cavs did that trade, if the Cavs did that trade, they are doing that trade to win now and don't care what happens after LeBron and Carmelo and all those guys leave. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree.
Because that trade doesn't necessarily help them 5 years down the line.
And to be honest, I don't really see how this trade helps the Suns unless the Suns are getting draft picks.
They must be getting draft picks,
they're
right?
probably getting draft picks. I think they're getting them from the Knicks. Not the Cavs.
Well,
I don't even think the Cavs have any draft picks.
What I would probably gather from this trade is that the Knicks would send 1 first-round pick to the Suns and 1 first-round pick to the Cavs.
That kind of makes sense.
18 goes to the Cavs or the Suns, and 20, because you can't do 2 in a row. The Knicks would then have 19, and then, so on and so forth. Now, the only thing I would say is lottery protect those picks.
Well, the thing is, I'm kind of curious as to what the other teams would be willing to offer for Kyrie Irving. Because the thing is, now he's unhappy. So now you got to figure out how to get him off the team. And now you just brought in Derrick Rose, too. Now, Derrick Rose, injuries aside and everything, what are the Timberwolves giving up after they just got Jimmy Butler? After they got, with.
Well, they don't have
I don't even know who else is left.
Well, they would have to give up Wiggins, right? It would have to be Wiggins.
And the thing is, they're on the verge of giving him a supermax.
Right. So that to me is not a place for him to go. The one thing I will say that I do like about this, and I make no mistake, folks, I am under no illusions that Kyrie Irving is coming to the Knicks. And I'm not even trying to want Kyrie Irving on the Knicks, okay? That I understand he's a good player and everybody loves him and top 15 player and blah, blah, blah. There are things about his game I like, and things about his game I don't like. If you look at the numbers when LeBron James doesn't play, they've won like 5 games, even with Kyrie. Now, the rest of the team is built to have somebody like LeBron James on the team, and so maybe he just wasn't playing with the right pieces when he's the guy. If he played with somebody like Porzingis, who was tall and he's slashing in the lanes, guys standing on the 3-point line, then you could be really good.
Yeah.
But he's playing with somebody like LeBron, so the team set up like that. The one thing I love about this whole thing is this. He's the first big-name player, top 15 player in the last 8 years since Amari Stoudemire said he wanted to come here, that wants to come here. And so maybe that's a turning point, right? Maybe that's a turning point.
And that to me is a little surprising. And it's nothing against the Knicks. I just don't understand.
He's from Jersey. I'm sure it has to do with that than anything else.
I mean,
he might have been a Knicks fan growing up. You know what I mean? You don't know.
I mean, I was trying to figure out the other day because they were saying that the Knicks had a big 3. If they get Irving, I think it was Irving, Porzingis, and
they don't.
And
they don't even have a big 2 because
I can't remember the last one.
But they don't even have a big 2. But
it wasn't even remotely close.
But
it was in the event they get Tyson Chandler. Their big 3 was Tyson Chandler, Irving, and Porzingis, and I kind of laughed when I heard that.
But I can't even put Porzingis in a big 2 situation yet. He hasn't earned that.
No, not at all.
So look. They would be considerably better because, as we find in the NBA right now, the point guard is the most important position, right? Would you agree with that?
Sure.
That the point guard is the most important position, and you would be getting probably one of the top 5 point guards in the game. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
I'm not saying he's one, but he's in that discussion. I don't think he's one. I think he's more in the 5-6 range, but you get what I'm saying.
Sure.
So I'm happy that players might look like they want to come here again. And to be honest with you, maybe Kyrie's like Kobe. Remember when Kobe wanted to get rid of Shaq? And everybody was like, Kobe, what are you doing? You're never going to win a championship without Shaq.
Yeah.
And then he won like 3 more without Shaq. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what Kyrie wants. Maybe Kyrie wants to go to a team, be the man, win when he's the man.
Right.
Because let's be fair, LeBron doesn't win 2 years ago or a year ago without Kyrie. Mm-hmm. He doesn't. Sorry, Kyrie hit the winning shot in Game 7.
No, again, this is going to be a long time before anything happens because right now it's just kind of.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's toxic. They may want to get it done before the spring training or whatever they call it. Preseason.
Training camp.
Spring training.
I mean,
summer
look,
training.
It really is going to depend. But right now I haven't really heard much about what the other teams want to offer. I know the Heat might offer like Dragic and Justice Winslow and like maybe another player.
But why would the Cavs do that?
But I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know what the Cavs are going to offer or what the Cavs are looking for. But it sounds like what the Cavs want is I think they want to do the deal with the Knicks so they can get Melo to Cleveland, which is what they've wanted from the get-go.
And let's be fair, Melo fits better in Cleveland than he does in Houston.
Yes.
In the systems. Now, if you're talking about 1 year where you're trying to win the championship, having Eric Bledsoe be your starting point guard with D Rose backing him up and Melo on the floor with James, that team is better equipped than any of the other deals that I've seen so far to do that.
Okay.
All right. Number 4. The Nets acquired another large contract in order to get future assets, trading for Raptors forward Damari Carroll. The Nets also received Toronto's first and second round pick in next year's draft in exchange for Justin Hamilton. Carroll is still owed roughly $30 million over the next 2 years, but the deal allows the Nets to get back into the 2018 draft where they had no picks. This is the second trade the Nets have made in which they acquired a large contract to get a young player for their rebuild. On draft night, they acquired D'Angelo Russell from the Lakers, but had to take Timothy Mozgov's $64 million contract as part of the deal. Craig, what I want to know is GM Sean Marks' plan of taking on bad contracts to acquire future assets inadvertently brilliant?
They actually just took on another contract because they just acquired Alan Crabb from Portland for Andrew Nicholson.
Which they were trying to do last year.
They tried to do it last year. Portland matched it, then realized they almost had to pay $50 million in luxury tax, which they've never had to pay before.
So Mozgov has 3 years left?
He has
Is it 2 or 3?
I think it's 3 right now.
3 for Mozgov, 2 for Carroll.
And Crabb has another 2 years with
2
a player
years
option.
With a player option. Okay, so that's
So-
that's 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is pretty much what they were timing the rebuild to begin
Sure.
with. So most likely, that's pretty much where it's going to go. It's inadvertently brilliant if it works. If it doesn't work, then it's not really inadvertently
Well,
brilliant.
isn't that true for anything?
Yeah, of course. However, I love what they're doing because this is the best way to get, for them, a
Right.
bad team with a lot of cap space.
Right.
This is the best way to get players to try to at least not necessarily win and go to the, but to at least lessen the blow of what Boston's pick may be next year. Plus, it allows them to get back into the draft. So now they have a first-round pick again from Toronto. They have a second-round pick from Toronto. And Indiana is going to be bad next year, so they're going to have another second-round pick from Indiana from the Thaddeus Young trade.
Right.
So they're going to have 2 second-rounders and a first-rounder for next year, which will, again, soften the blow for whatever the pick Boston.
And it'll probably
winds up
be
with.
low 20s, like 20,
Yeah.
21, somewhere in
Somewhere
there.
between, I think it's going to be between like 22 and 27. That'll be my
Now,
guess.
let's be fair. Toronto is like one injury away from being a terrible basketball team.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a lot of depth.
And meanwhile, again, the Nets added Crabb, who can shoot.
Yep.
He'll probably come off the bench, be one of the primary guys off the bench. D'Angelo Russell running the point. And then you get Damari Carroll, who played well under Atkinson, who knows Atlanta's system. So in some ways, it's a
Well, he's like a
solid-
big slasher. He can shoot a 3 if he needs to. He's a good rebounder.
I mean,
decent defender.
and this is exactly what Sean Marks has to do. I mean, he said it himself. This is the hand we're dealt. We have to deal with it. So this is his way of trying to make the Nets at least a little bit more competitive this year. He had over $20 million in cap space, so
Right.
he can take the contract.
Well, the cap means nothing to them right
Yeah.
now. Let's be fair. It means nothing. As long as they're not paying the luxury tax,
Yeah.
it literally means nothing
they're
because
still-
they have 2 or 3 years out.
Yeah, and they still have $4 million left under the cap anyway. So in essence, if later in the year they wanted to try to trade Lynn, which is always a possibility,
Sure.
they could try to trade Lynn to get maybe a first-round pick. It's definitely possible. A guy like Trevor Booker could definitely have some value as the year goes on.
And also, let's be fair. Next year, when Carroll's on the walk year of his contract, he may be an asset to trade
Yeah,
as
it's an
well.
expiring contract.
So,
And the Nets will still have plenty of money next year because the thing is, a lot of the teams will be hitting the luxury tax while the Nets won't.
right.
So it makes perfect sense, and I think it's a brilliant plan. You just hope it works. If the Nets can get 25, I think if they can get 30 wins this year, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Okay.
Okay, I don't expect them to be a playoff team. I think too many things have to happen. Too many things have to break right for them. But I could easily see this being a 30-win team.
That, if the Nets win, listen, let me say this. If the Nets win 30 games, that is a win for them on so many levels because the Celtics probably won't get the first, second, or even third pick at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They'd probably get more like the 8th pick or something like that. You would, again, assumptions. And that you'd be setting the groundwork going forward. And then you might even get some free agents because, 2018 is going to be 2018, 2019 is going to be a lot of big free agents. You might get a lot of guys out of there, which would be, listen, the Nets, it's funny. I used to say that the Nets were in better position than the Knicks, and I still sort of feel that way. But now that Phil Jackson's not running the team, I feel that way less.
Right.
Now, because the thing is, if the Knicks don't acquire Kyrie Irving, they have their first-round pick for the next 3 years, and next year they're not going to be good. They're going to trade. They're going to trade Melo. Melo's gone. Melo's gone. They're probably going to have a rookie playing point guard or some guy who's a hack. Porzingis is going to be there, and we'll see what he does. And you want to see a good year from those guys, but right now the Knicks and Nets are almost, neck and neck on who's better, who's worse. The only difference between the two is the Knicks have a young player who could be a potential superstar, where the Nets don't have that guy yet.
This is the Polar Opposites Podcast. Check us out, as always, at polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes, as well as Spreaker.com. Follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Training camp starts this week. A few teams have actually reported already, as we said earlier, the Eagles, the Cardinals, and I think the Cowboys. NFL Network has already started their overblown coverage of training camp.
Yes.
Right, which is, I guess, what I look forward to because, like I've said it before a few times on the show, and it's basically as much as I know the Jets are going to be bad this year, I always look forward to training
Sure,
camp.
of course. Absolutely.
Look forward to preseason, look forward to all that stuff because I'm a big fan of checking out the younger players that have a good shot of making the team.
Future hopes.
Yeah, you already know who's going to make the team out of the veterans. There'll be a few guys on the bubble, but you want to see what the draft picks can do. You already know what Jamal Adams is going to be, for example, on the Jets, or like Evan Ingram is going to be on the Giants.
Right.
But when you see guys like for the Jets, are Darius Stewart or Chad Hansen, the 3rd and 4th round picks. For the Giants, Dalvin Tomlinson, the 2nd round pick. Even Davis Webb to an extent, because he could be your replacement for Eli when Eli decides to call it a career.
Sure, of course.
Those are the things you really look forward to more than anything.
Yeah, I'd rather watch the 3rd and 4th quarter than the first. Now, you want to see how the first team does, but if they mess up, are you really reading that much into it?
No, of course not. You want to see who's going to make the team, who's got a good shot.
And we're going to do at the end of this, right before closing time, we're going to take 5 minutes. I'm going to ask Craig 2 questions. He's going to ask me 2 questions. It's basically about people we want to see in camp and performance we want to see. I want to touch on this real quick.
Let's do it.
I just want a quick.
This is actually a big deal.
It's a big deal. They did this study today, a neuroscience study, where they studied, 202 players, 111 of them which were NFL players, and 110 of them found to have CTE. Now, they can't find CTE until after you're dead because they have to cut open your brain to find it. And so the New York Times article actually breaks it down where linemen, and this is no shock, if you know anything about football, linemen would lead this list. Now, people who don't know football would assume it'd be wide receivers, running backs, but linemen, every single player smacking heads.
Yeah, sure.
There are games
and
where I don't think Odell...
This is 350-pound guys smacking each other in the head,
but
too.
there are games where I think Odell Beckham might get hit twice. Mm-hmm. Eli Manning might get hit a couple times. But on every play, linebackers are smacking each other, and that's why they lead in this sort of thing. I just want to say one thing about this, because I'm not a doctor, nor do I pretend to be. I don't even play one on TV. But here's the thing, and I call it high horse day, because everybody's out on their high horse about, you shouldn't let your kids play football. Oh, football's dangerous. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'll say. I think it's like anything else. Why did Nolan Ryan be able to throw into his 90s until he was 45 years old, yet some guys throw 95 and their arm snaps? Why do guys get crashed in the knee? Remember Brandon Marshall last year? We all thought he tore his ACL. Yeah. There was a game where his leg bent the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And we all thought, and he got taken. You know what game I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. I want to say it was against the Bills, but I don't remember if it was exactly them. And he played the rest of the season. No injury, nothing whatsoever. Another guy like that would tear his patella and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but then you get a guy for example, we use Eric Decker.
Right.
Knee injury, hip injury, it never ends.
And so what if CTE is like everything else? What if CTE is one of those things where you're predisposed to brain injuries, right? Where you can do a test that says you're predisposed to brain injuries. Because as shocking as this is, this is only the 202 people who donated their brain to science because they had symptoms. How many players who played in the NFL have never come forward and said they have any symptom whatsoever?
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, but this is the type of story that we talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
Because the one thing we talked about in the past was why players are all of a sudden retiring early.
Well, yeah.
A lot earlier than they're accustomed to. For example,
Money.
Last year you had Calvin Johnson retire. You had Rashard Mendenhall retire, where he was just I have enough money to survive. I'm going to go do what I want to do now, and I just want to walk away from football now. That kid from the 49ers who was really good
he was
on
a
special
rookie
teams.
too.
He was a
wasn't
rookie.
Even playing. He wasn't even getting
saw
paid
enough,
a lot.
read a few books about CTE and brain injuries, and was I'm done.
Yeah.
This is what the future of the NFL is. Your life expectancy right now in the NFL is going to be shorter because either players are not going to want to find out if they have CTE later on, or they're just going to take so many hits that, they're just going to have it.
Well, I'll say this. There's nothing they can do to stop it. And if we find out that it's one of those things that's not hereditary, but why do some people get cancer and some people don't? Why do some people get dementia and some people don't?
Yeah.
Some people are predisposed to these things. So I'm wondering if maybe these people are predisposed to brain injuries and some other people aren't. For whatever reason, for whatever the physiological reason is, I can't tell you what it is because I don't know. Because to me, I can't believe that every single player who plays football has CTE. I just can't think that.
No, and I don't think that's what it is. I just like you said, they donated.
But this report is basically saying that.
But this is going to scare, like I said before, this is going to scare players, especially kids in college too. People are going to read this and they're going to freak out because, again, they don't want to run the risk of developing CTE. They won't know that they have it,
right?
Because they just basically go mental. But I mean,
the other thing I would say is, and then we're going to get to the over. We'll get to some fun stuff. Is this? I don't want to hear any talk about helmets being changed. I don't want to hear talk about any of this stuff because it doesn't matter. It's not about the outside of your head. It's about the inside of your head. There is space between your skull and your brain. It is not an exact fit, okay? It's not like skinny jeans
and
where you can see every curve.
But here's the other thing, too. It's not like I played football. I played high school football, okay? The thing is that while the helmet does protect you, it's not like the pads are like glued to your head.
No, but
There's
it's
like
even
a space where you could still take a bad hit.
Well, but it's not even that. It's the inside of your head. So your head could be perfectly protected by the helmet, right? Mm-hmm. You could see no damage to your skull whatsoever. The problem is that little space that's between your skull and your brain on the inside, the brain is smashing against the inside of your skull. So you could even get hit in the stomach. And if your head whips forward or whips back quickly, that could cause a concussion. So, look, it's one of those things where we'll always have football players because we'll always have people who want to make money and they're willing to risk it, to do it. Mm-hmm. But you will have less and less. And I guarantee you that we are a couple years away from having like no tackling until college.
I think it's going to be, I mean, listen, at the same time, if players are reading this article, because we saw this a lot last year, we talked about it all the time, that as much as this is out there and it's a little bit of a scary situation, the fact is also players are still headhunting during games.
Well, we haven't seen the first, this heads-up tackling thing. I don't think we've seen the first generation that has had to play football under those rules yet.
Right.
I think that started like 5 or 6 years ago,
mm-hmm.
maybe even a little longer. But still, I think soon we'll start to see that. We're still seeing guys who were raised on throwing your body into the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to do? You want to do over-unders or you want to do predictions?
Let's do over-unders.
Over-unders. All right. So, we're going to start out with the AFC East. Let's just get it out of the way.
Okay.
The Patriots are listed as 12.5. The over-under 12.5. You want to go over or under, Craig? Quickly.
I'm going to go under.
Going to go under. Dolphins 7.
Can we do a push?
No.
Over.
Okay.
By 8. They'll be 8.
Bills 6.5.
I'm going to say over.
Okay. Jets 5.
I'm going to say under.
Okay. I'm going Pats over, Dolphins over, Bills under, Jets under.
You really think the Bills are going to be under 6.5?
Absolutely.
I don't think they're going to be like that great. It was funny because my brother-in-law is from Buffalo, huge Bills fan, and we were out to dinner last week and we were talking about football because he brought up the Jets and everything, and we talked about the Bills, and he likes McDermott, but he goes, "There's nothing that sucks more than when your team is constantly like 8-8." 7-9. He goes, and that's exactly what I think Buffalo's going to be this year.
See,
too.
I don't think they're even going to be that good. I don't like the quarterback. I think he's going to take a step back. Sammy Watkins will probably be hurt.
I think it's
again.
going to be a run-heavy team with LaShawn McCoy.
Right, but that doesn't win in the NFL anymore. It just doesn't. Their defense isn't good enough.
And whether you want to believe it, Stephon Gilmore was a loss for that team. He wasn't a great cornerback, but he was probably their best last year. And so, go ahead, next.
AFC North, Steelers 10.5.
Under.
Baltimore Ravens 9.
Under.
Bengals 8.5.
Under.
Browns 4.5.
Under.
I'll agree with all those.
I don't think. First of all,
they're going to beat each other up too much for me.
I think the Bengals are going to be terrible this year.
Well, I think the Browns are going to be a little better, which is going to cause. I think they'll have a couple upsets in the division, and I think that they'll end up beating each other up enough to where it'll cause.
And I actually think
under.
that from what I've been reading about, I actually have been reading about a lot of the teams, and one of the things I've been reading about Cleveland is that they really like DeShone Kizer. And I actually think, I don't know if he'll be the week 1 quarterback. I think they want it to be
Might be in the running.
Yeah, he could be because he's supposedly looked really good. Now, this is all without pads and obviously no games. But Kessler's also looked pretty decent as well. The ultimate thing that'll kill me about the Browns is I just don't like any of their receivers.
Right.
I don't like Kenny Britt as a number 1. I mean, and that's pretty much what you're going to have with them. But other the other teams, like Baltimore, I don't think is going to be that great this year.
The Steelers could be that good, but
I don't think Cincinnati's going to be good at all.
And the Steelers could be that good, but they always have a ton of injuries. Roethlisberger always misses time.
Yeah.
Bell's going to miss time. It's
and
always
I think
the same.
Roethlisberger's one bad injury away from calling it a career.
That might be true. AFC South, Colts 8.5.
Over.
Titans 8.5.
I'm going to say under.
Texans 8.
Under.
Jaguars 6.5.
Under.
I'm actually going to go Colts under, Titans over.
Really?
Yeah, I like the Titans. I think they're a good team. They're good, disciplined football. They don't really turn the ball over that much. I think their defense is good, and I think their ball control offense will help them.
The reason why I think Colts over is because not necessarily because of luck, but I think they did enough on their defense to
make it better.
improve, and I think it's going to be a better defense this year.
And I think the Texans could be over 8, but it depends on the quarterback. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet.
I would say don't sleep on the Jags because Maroney's coaching that team this year, and I think that with Coughlin running the show, I think they're going to be a lot more disciplined than they used to be. I actually think they're going to be
about discipline. It's the quarterback.
But the thing is, I don't, there's nothing about the team that I love, which is why I'm going to put them under at 6.5. They could easily be a 5-11 team this year, or 6-10.
AFC West, Raiders 9.5.
I'll go over.
Chiefs 9.
Over.
Broncos 8.
Under. Actually, no. I'm going to say over.
Chargers 7.5.
I'm going to say under. I think a lot of people are on the Chargers bandwagon. I don't think they're going to be that good.
Especially moving to L.A.
Yeah,
I
don't think they're going to be that good.
With their L.A. Dodgers.
I was really surprised. CBS Sports did an article about how teams that they think will make the playoffs or have a really good chance, and they named the Chargers, and I'm going to call BS on that one because I just don't think they're going to be
Hollywood.
that good.
Plus, they're not beating the Browns, Chiefs, or Raiders. They're just not. They're just not as
Broncos,
good.
Chiefs, and
Oh, Broncos, Chiefs, and Raiders. Sorry.
They may not beat the Browns.
They might not beat the Browns. I'm going to agree with all of you on those, by the way.
Okay.
Let's go to the NFC East. Cowboys 9.5.
Jeez, with all the suspensions, I don't really know.
Is there anybody who's going to be able to play? It's
going
to be Dak and Lyle Collins.
Yeah. I'm going to say over.
Giants 8.5.
Under.
Wow.
I'm kidding. I actually think they're going to be over. They're going to be over.
Eagles 8.
I'm going to say under.
Skins 7.5.
I'm going to say under. Barely.
Okay.
But I think I'm going to say under.
Well, I'm saying Cowboys under, but I think they're going to be a 9-win team.
I think the Cowboys will win 10.
And I think the Giants will win 9. That's why. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Like it's basically a game between the two.
I think it's going to be
I think they're both going to be 9 and 7.
That's why I freaking hate that the NFL scheduled them week 1.
It sucks.
Every
year.
That is so annoying because you have to build that up.
You
man.
should.
That should be at least. That game should not be considered until week 5 or 6.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I'm going to say the Eagles. I'm going to say under for them, but I think like a 7-win team. I don't think they're going to be bad. And I think the Skins are going to be about a 7-win team, so I'm going to go under as well. Packers 10.5.
I'm going to say under. I'm not sold on them.
Either my defense is not great, and until they show me a running game, I really can't.
Yeah.
You know. But I think I'm going to say over because I don't really like the rest of the division.
No, neither do I. I hate this division.
Which is why I think I'm going to say over because I think their division is weak. Vikings 8.5.
Under. I don't like the Vikings at all this year. I don't really like I don't like Bradford to begin with.
But they figured out. Remember the first half of the year when Bradford was there, he was like completing like 80% of his passes, and then teams figured it out, and he couldn't adjust to it.
And now I hate to say you don't have AP anymore, and that's kind of a big deal.
Under as well. Lions 7.5.
I'm going to go over. I think they're going to win at least 8.
I'm going to go over as well because I think the Vikings and the Bears are so bad. I think this is
Caldwell's last year.
I agree.
And
Bears 5.5.
I think under. I'm not sold on them at all.
Falcons 9.5.
Over.
Carolina 9.
Under.
Saints 8.
Under.
Tampa 8.
Man, I think Tampa Bay is really overrated going into this year, but I'm going to say over because I could see them winning 9 games, but I could also see them losing 9. I could see them. Losing
I don't know if this
games.
is possible, but I could see.
Sold.
I could see Falcons, Panthers, and Bucks all going 9 and 7.
I could see it
is
too.
That
I
crazy
just
to
don't
say?
know if it's going to happen. But
the only one I think is the Saints. And listen, I know they made improvements on their defense, but until I see their defense actually improve and actually stop somebody so Drew Brees doesn't have to throw 50,000 yards a year, I can't give them 8 wins. I can't.
Listen, I think the ship has sailed with Peyton. I said it a long time ago. As much as they won that Super Bowl, I think that was under like intense times with Hurricane Katrina. And I just think, as much as they were a talented team that year, they haven't been that great ever since under Peyton.
Right.
They've just been a pass-happy team where Brees throws for 500 or 600 yards a week. They've never established a running game. They've never established a defense. What is going to possess me to think that New Orleans is going to be any better This is a team right now that needs to change a coach.
Yeah,
that
and
ship
they
has
just
sailed
won't.
with Peyton, and it's never going to. They're always going to be that 8-8 team, just like what we were saying about the Buffalo Bills.
Seahawks 10.5.
I'm going to say under.
I'm going to say over just because, again, the division sucks once you get past the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be between Rams and Niners. They should win 4. That's 4 games.
I could see Arizona over.
Arizona over 8. Okay,
Yeah,
I could see that. Rams 6.
I'm going to say under. I think McVay is going to get blown. He's going to get destroyed this year. I just think it's just a case of a new guy, and you're asking him a lot to develop Jared Goff. But Jared Goff needs to take a step forward this year.
And Niners 5.
I can only see them winning 3 games this year.
I'm going to go under as well. I'm going to go under Rams. I'm actually going to go. Oh man, the Cardinals. They could go 9-7 or 7-9.
If Palmer gets hurt, they're finished.
So I'm going to say under for the Cardinals.
If Palmer gets hurt, they're finished.
And I'm going to go over for the Seahawks. Very exciting stuff. So real quick, because we got closing time in about 8 minutes, 2 questions.
Go.
I want to hear the number one guy you want to watch during training camp.
For the Jets?
Yeah. It could be anybody. Veteran, rookie, it doesn't matter.
Man, where do I begin? As much as I want to say Hackenberg, that's too easy. That's an obvious answer.
Mine's going to be obvious because sometimes they just have to be. It's all right.
The one guy that I would really like to see.
All right, let's do it this way.
Okay.
Give me the obvious guy.
The obvious guy for me is definitely Hackenberg.
And then a guy that nobody's really worried about or not necessarily cares about or whatever, but a guy that you have fallen in love with and you want to see.
I'm going to give you 2.
Go ahead.
Because I like one on offense, one on defense, and they're both rookies. Defense, Marcus May, the 2nd-round pick. And on offense, Chad Hansen, the 4th-round pick. Those are the 2 guys I really want to see do well.
Okay.
Outside of that, I can't really gauge the team until I see them in action. I know they're going to try to establish a tight end this year with Safarian Jenkins and Jordan Leggett. But outside of that, those are the 2 guys I think I really want to see. I think everything else will just kind of fall in line with like Anunwa and Forte and Powell. And on defense, I think the line will be the strongest point of the team. I'm hoping that Darren Lee takes a step forward this year because he didn't really have a great year last year. And outside of that, I'm excited. I like Morris Claiborne, but I just don't expect much out of them this year.
Well, you want to see the quarterback.
Yeah, I think Hackenberg
You
is
want to see
taking
quarterback progression or regression, whatever.
Hackenberg has taken enough steps forward this year where I think that he could challenge. But you got to put him in game action. That's all.
Right.
How about you for the G-men?
The obvious one is Eric Flowers.
Okay.
Right? I would assume that everyone would say that and see. Now, apparently, he's coming to camp, and he's lost weight, and he's slimmed up, and he's, whatever, and he's ready to go. And this is Snacks Harrison say this, and if you listen to Snacks enough, you know that he's not one to, parse words. You know what I mean? So him, as far as the one, I'm sure some people are talking about, but people might have actually forgotten is I'm looking to see something from Darian Thompson.
Okay.
He was the 3rd-round pick, I want to say 2 years ago at this point.
He was hurt.
And he's been hurt this whole time, but he's one of those guys. He's a perfect. Now you don't know this because he's never played, but the scouting report on him makes him a perfect complement to Landon Collins.
Yeah.
Landon Collins, low box, run stopper. Darian Thompson's more of a center fielder, intercept, that sort of guy. So those are the 2 guys. And of course, as always, the QB. He's going to play. They're going to play him in preseason games. And what you hope at the end of this preseason, what you hope, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what you hope is that kid has played so well that they basically make him the backup quarterback.
Yeah. Pretty much. Otherwise, it's just
that would be a dream scenario.
Yeah. For me, again, I'm really excited to see the rookies. I'm also excited to see a few of the undrafted guys, like this kid Gabe Marks I've been talking about from Washington State. Was a great receiver there. He's a little small, but I think he's got
small doesn't matter anymore.
I think he's got I hope he's got a shot to make the team, and he's not already pretty much been cut, just not made it official yet. And then outside of that, on defense, the one kid I'm looking to see also is Dylan Donahue, this kid they drafted in the 5th round from West Georgia. Seemed to really like him. He's actually taken some first-team reps already. Kevin Green is now the new linebackers coach. He's coaching him up. So hopefully, again, because the one thing they really need now more than ever is pass rushing. Lorenzo Malden's been disappointing. Jordan Jenkins was better towards the end of the year. They need pass rushers. They need to get pressure on that quarterback. That's the only way the defense is going to work.
Other than the QB, what is the weakest position on the team?
No, Jesus. Where do I begin? I think the line is a little underrated.
You mean offensive line?
Offensive line, I think, is a little underrated. I like Winters and I like Carpenter in the middle. I know Wesley Johnson is new at center, but he played well enough last year, I think, to give him a shot. The tackles worry me a little bit because Beachum is injury prone, and Shell, who looks like he could be the favorite to win the job, is still a little raw.
Right.
I would say the weakest part of the team for me is probably the receivers because they don't really have. We just don't know.
Right.
It's you're basically throwing it up in the air and hope something sticks.
Right.
And with Enunwa being a number one, that's going to be a whole new transition for him. And you hope that maybe the tight end will definitely play a role, and that could be right now that's another weak spot because you're going to lose Safarian Jenkins for 2 games. He's suspended. So
besides the defensive line, what's the strongest part of your team? Because the defensive line's the obvious answer.
Honestly, I like the running game. I really like Matt Forte. I like Bilal Powell. I think they're a good tag team. If the line can open up holes, I think they're going to make some noise. I think Bilal Powell was terribly underused last year. I thought Forte got way too many carries. I think he even admitted that.
Right.
And, one thing about Forte, which he made a great point, is Chan Gailey never threw to him out of the flat.
Right.
And that was one of his strengths.
Right.
So how do you not use him in his one major strength? Powell's a good between the tackles runner. I mean, he definitely gets open. He definitely runs for yards. I think that's going to be a good strength if they can get. And I think it will take a lot of pressure off the young quarterbacks because I don't think McCown's lasted more than 4 games before they go to Hackenberg.
All right.
You ready to?
You don't want to hear about the Giants?
No,
right.
I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Go.
Besides the offensive line, I would say the next weakest spot to me is probably linebacker, just because B.J. Goodson, a second-year player, is probably going to be the starting middle linebacker. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Casillas had more tackles than he ever had, and so we'll see about that. The best position, I think, for the Giants, most people would say defensive line. I think it's the defensive backfield. I think their defensive backfield is spectacular. When you got Rogers Cromartie as your sort of third corner, that's a huge deal. And if Thompson can stay healthy, you have Adams, who played well in his injury last year, and you have Landon Collins, who is excellent. I think the Giants secondary is fantastic, really fantastic.
Polar Opposites Podcast, as always, check us out at polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes, as well as Spreaker.com, and follow us on Twitter at PolarOpposites1. Maddie, you ready to close the show out?
Let's do it.
Closing time, as always, rounds out the show for the week. 8 topics, anything goes, all opinions vary, all opinions legal, and all opinions matter. Nothing?
They don't. I don't have to keep saying it. They just don't.
Maddie, are you ready?
Oh!
All right, number 1. Dallas police have decided to suspend an investigation of an alleged assault that took place at a Dallas bar involving Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott. Dallas police could not continue the investigation as they were given a wrong phone number as well as an old address by the victim. Elliott could still face a suspension of 1 to 2 games due to a past domestic violence incident, but the NFL is reportedly still investigating. This has been a rough offseason for the Cowboys, with a few players suspended due to violation of the substance abuse policy and the off-the-field issues involving Elliott, which also included exposing a woman's breast during a St. Patrick's Day party at a Dallas bar. In your opinion, do the coaches and especially Cowboys owner Jerry Jones look the other way when it comes to players' behavior?
I think certain players, Lucky Whitehead was released after he was wrongfully accused of, I think it was shoplifting or something like that. And the guy just falsely accused him. He wasn't even there. And they released him for things that were detrimental to the team. But you notice nobody ever talked about with Zeke. And I posted something about it, and I was like, look, I don't see how you can say it. And then they're like, oh, well, nobody pressed charges. And if your defense is nobody pressed charges, then the guy's a bad guy. Because nobody pressed charges doesn't mean he didn't do anything wrong.
How do we know he wasn't threatened by some of his friends? Or
right.
Something?
And how do you know that Zeke didn't have some people go and say don't listen?
He makes millions of dollars. He can easily have a few huge bodyguards.
But forget about even that. This is a pattern now, right? He gets accused of the domestic violence at Ohio State, right? And that's still sort of ongoing, even though Jerry Jones said nothing's going on. He does the thing with the woman's breast. He's seen standing over this guy in a nightclub. We don't have actual video of him punching the guy, but you assume he was near it. And what you see with Zeke Elliott is this. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. But at some point, he will be in trouble with the law. And it will affect his NFL career poorly. And it will be stupid because there's absolutely no reason for it. But you see it coming, right? You can just see it coming.
The problem is with Dallas, it just seems like every week somebody new is in trouble.
Yeah.
Lucky Whitehead incident aside,
Right.
I'm saying you got Randy Gregory suspended multiple times. You had a couple of other guys suspended. Last year you had at least 3 or 4 players suspended for substance abuse. And now you got this issues with Ezekiel Elliott. He's a great running back. And I understand that he's young, and but I'm getting a tinge that Jerry Jones is making excuses for him.
Sure.
Basically saying that he's he's not used to being in the spotlight, or he's not used to I don't remember exact words, but that to me comes off as you're making excuses for him. And you may need to set an example, because again, it's only going to get worse because these guys are trying to act like they can get away with whatever. The fact that Randy Gregory hasn't even been released yet, he just keeps getting suspended, and they just keep him on the team is mind-boggling to me. So, yeah, I think to an extent, depending on the player, the coaches and Jerry Jones look the other way. But a guy like Lucky Whitehead, who may not have had a shot to make the team, maybe he was going to be not necessarily a practice squad player, but a 4th or 5th receiver, you cut him because of conduct for conduct. It just doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I do think when it comes to the specific player in Dallas, the coaches look the other way.
I think that's true for most teams, though.
I think it's true for most teams,
for great players. Number 2, Kirk Cousins will play in the 2017 season on the franchise tag and will make over $23 million for the upcoming season. The Redskins and Cousins have been in talks on a long-term deal, with Washington offering him a 6-year, $133 million contract with $53 million fully guaranteed, but Cousins turned it down and opted to play on the franchise tag instead. The $53 million in guaranteed money is a record for a QB, and a deal overall was worth $72 million in guarantees. The Redskins won't be able to sign Cousins to a long-term deal until the end of the season on December 31st, and if they don't, he will be an unrestricted free agent. Craig, how big of a risk did Kirk Cousins make by rejecting this offer?
From a monetary standpoint, he made a huge risk because, again, it's $53 million in guaranteed money. That being said, I think he sent a clear message to the Redskins, basically saying, I don't want to play here after 2017. I think I want to go somewhere else, and I think he's going to wind up going to San Francisco. Because I think if he really wanted to stay in Washington, I think this seems to me like a pretty strong deal. Now, I can't rank all the quarterbacks, but he's not on the level of Rodgers or Brady or Eli or...
Yeah, but throw all that out. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. It's based on need. It's not based on talent, right?
And exactly and that's exactly a fair point. So the thing is, he's a very talented quarterback, but the thing is that quarterbacks are just getting paid. So if you really wanted to stay in Washington, you would have probably taken this deal. This seems to me like a shot at saying, you know what, I'm going to walk after this year because I just don't think he wants to be in Washington after this year.
Well, I mean, look, I actually don't think it's a huge risk. I actually don't think so. And I'm going to here's why. I think that the NFL is so quarterback starved that unless this guy has like a Drew Brees shoulder injury where it's like affects his throwing arm, he's not mobile enough to really care if he hurts his knee or his ankle or something like that. And teams need quarterbacks so badly. And he's had now 2 years of excellent numbers. Forget about when he throws interceptions and blah, blah, blah. Just talking about numbers, he's been top 5 quarterbacks as far as numbers go.
No, he's been good.
So I think that teams are going to give him money no matter what.
Here's what I say. At the end of the day, if Kaepernick can get the kind of contract he got with the 49ers, then Cousins will still get paid, even if he has not a Pro Bowl year.
Right.
So if he throws like 25 touchdowns with 12 interceptions, he'll get paid a lot of money either way.
And he won't have to deal with Dan Snyder.
And on top of that, the team that signs him won't have to risk going through the draft and developing a rookie that may not pan out. You already have a proven veteran on your team.
Right.
Number 3, while no one knows what the future holds for Jimmy Garoppolo in New England after the season, one of his former teammates, Mike Giardi, believes that if the Browns acquired him either through free agency or trade, they would be, quote, a borderline playoff team. Giardi told CSN New England, quote, I played against him every day in practice. He can make all the throws. He can process all the information. He's a gamer. I can tell you this, if he had gotten traded to Cleveland, they're a borderline playoff team. I really believe that, end quote. The Pats resisted any temptation to trade Garoppolo, and he will be an unrestricted free agent after this season unless he receives the franchise tag. Would Jimmy Garoppolo make the Browns or any team a borderline playoff team?
He might make another team a borderline playoff team, but he wouldn't make the Browns a borderline playoff team because he doesn't have the offensive players around him to make him. He's not Superman. He's not Tom Brady. The other thing, too, is that we learned one thing about Jimmy Garoppolo when he played for the New England Patriots. He's a little fragile. Yeah. Tom Brady has played behind that line for how many years, and he missed 1 season. Jimmy Garoppolo played behind that line for 3 weeks and was missed the rest of the season. So, look, if he's going to go to a bad team, he's going to get beat up. And getting beat up is going to get him hurt because he's not as big as some of the other guys. So, no, I don't think he makes them a playoff team. I think he makes some other teams. I think he would make, like, the Houston Texans a playoff team because they already are, and he's a better quarterback than what they had last year.
So here's the thing. I don't really still, to this day, I don't know what Jimmy Garoppolo
Nobody
is.
does.
I mean, okay, he's had plenty of years learning under Tom Brady, but when you put him in the game, was he really that great?
He was good, not great, but he's also playing behind a great offensive, a good offensive line.
And guys who pretty much catch everything,
Right.
like Gronkowski and Julian Edelman. And, so I don't really know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. And if you put him on the Browns, he's definitely he's not making them a playoff team.
Probably.
Okay, unless you put the cast around him a little bit better.
Well, yeah, no wide receivers. I mean, you even just said.
But, for me, it's just like, I don't know anything about Jimmy Garoppolo yet to really give an opinion.
Right.
And the thing is, he's going to be a guy that if the Patriots rescind the franchise tag, he's going to get paid.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like a Matt Castle syndrome all over again, when Matt Castle had that one run of games when Brady tore his ACL and it was done. And then he wasn't really that good in Kansas City, Minnesota, or Tennessee. So,
number 4, last week we mentioned that USC QB Sam Darnold, projected to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, is considering staying in school for 2 more years, which would make him eligible for the 2020 Draft. Darnold has heard all about the Suck for Sam campaigns that the media have hyped up and is asking teams not to tank their seasons for the chance to draft him next April. Darnold says he'll take in 1 year at a time and making his decisions on when he'll go pro. Is Sam Darnold inadvertently sending a message to the bad teams of the NFL that he doesn't want to play for them?
no, I don't think so, but I also think he's trying to alleviate the pressure off himself. And I think at the same time, he's saying, like, look, yes, thank you for thinking that I'm a really good quarterback, but I don't know what I'm doing after this year, so I don't want you to get your hopes up. He's already said he may go back to school. And he said it now rather than wait until the very, very end, till, where teams like may be in a situation to draft him. I don't think he's inadvertently sending the message to just bad teams. I just think he's sending a message to all teams like, listen, you can do it if you want, but there's no guarantee I'm going to be there if you draft first overall. Now, here's the thing. If Darnold has a really good year at USC, I think he's coming out. I don't think he's taking a chance about staying another year to risk his draft status.
Right.
So I think it's really a case of don't tank your season on my behalf, but at the same time, I think if he has a good year, he's coming out anyway.
I don't think NFL teams tank seasons. I think the players have to play hard enough to make the team the following year to where I don't now some teams are just bad, right? But I don't think it's like the NBA. I don't think NFL teams tank seasons. But I'll say this, Sam, if you are doing it because you want to tell the bad teams you want to go there, then don't be an NFL quarterback. Because no good team is going to be able to draft you.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. Unless that team trades up for you, and they're not going to trade the assets and the
trust
picks
me, at the end
to
of the
trade
day,
up for you.
At the end of the day, you'll want a bad team to draft you if it means getting the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
It's top salary. It's everything else.
So, I get it, but at the same time, just when you're ready to come out, and just don't worry about it until then.
Number 5, while Carmelo Anthony has made it known that he's willing to waive his no-trade clause for the Rockets or the Cavs, the Thunder have emerged as another team that is showing interest in him. However, there's another team that is hoping Melo would waive his no-trade clause to join, and that's the Portland Trail Blazers. CJ McCollum posted a picture of Melo wearing a Blazers jersey to his Instagram account, which started the speculation, and Damian Lillard has also tried to recruit Melo to Portland. The Blazers are interested in Anthony, but will not help Houston land him as part of a 3- or 4-team deal. A deal to Portland is most likely not going to happen, with Anthony saying he's not interested in going there. If Melo can't get his wish to go to either the Cavs or the Rockets, would Portland really be that bad?
It wouldn't be that bad because that's a good tandem you'd be teaming up with, and it would allow you basically just to sit outside and just shoot 3-pointers all day because they'll just slash into the lane and give you 3-pointers. I think Melo's going to end up on the Rockets or he's going to end up on Cleveland. I don't think Portland's a thing for them. And actually, to be honest with you, I think Portland would be dumb to do it because I think it makes them better, but I don't think it's that thing that gets them past the Warriors or even the Rockets, to be honest with you. So
Portland can't take on any more salary. They just traded Allen Crabbe, and now they're talking about, in the event that Melo wanted to go there.
Well, the Knicks would have to take back a bad contract, which I'm sure they have a few of. So, look, would it be the worst thing for Melo? No. Would it be the best thing for Melo? No. It's sort of just in the middle. It's like, when you ask a couple girls to the prom, the real pretty girls, and they all say no, and then the average girl is like, yeah, I'll go with you, and you're like, okay.
And we'll just go Dutch.
Yeah. So, it's like that. It's like,
I mean, listen,
it's better than the Knicks, right?
If I'm Melo and the opportunity to play with McCollum and Lillard, I would definitely take it. But at the same time,
You want to go to Cleveland or Houston.
I mean, if Cleveland is the best chance, or like Houston, because then you get to play with your boy Chris Paul, then I guess either one. I mean, I don't think Portland would really be that bad, but then again, the NBA is a player-run league. We already know that, so these guys are pretty much dictating where they want to go.
That is all true. Number 6, with all the drama surrounding Kyrie Irving wanting out of Cleveland, Blazers guard Damian Lillard believes that players that want to be traded owe their teammates and fans the truth as to why they want to leave. Lillard was a guest on CBS Sports Radio's Writer, is that right?
Writer Than You.
Writer Than You show, and he said, quote, "You owe your teammates first because those are the guys that you spend the most time around, and the fans because they're the people that come and cheer for you and support you as much as anybody. They deserve to know the truth and where you stand and what your plans are." Craig, should players that want to demand or be traded be upfront as to why they want to leave?
I love Damian Lillard because I really think he's got some good comments when asked like questions up front. Yeah, I do. It'll never happen.
No.
It'll never, ever happen because it'll just be speculation.
Right.
They'll just say, well, I want to move on, or I want this. But they're never going to say, LeBron James is the reason why I want out.
Wouldn't you respect the hell out
I
of that,
totally
though, dude?
would. And I
if
totally
Kyrie
would.
took to Instagram and took a picture of him with, like, middle fingers up at LeBron's jersey, being like, I want... No, it wouldn't be that ridiculous, but you know what I'm saying. But, like, an actual reason.
I 100% would have respect for him if he did that, but it never would happen because it's just going to be more drama as the season goes on. But I would tell you one thing. It would make those games where Kyrie versus LeBron really, really exciting.
Could you see like a political ad? Like, I'm Kyrie Irving, and I approve this
Exactly.
message. LeBron James is a jerk. He just wants to win and take all the credit. Kyrie wants out.
He's a diva.
Right. Like,
it
wouldn't
goes
that
on.
be amazing?
Of course.
That'd be fantastic. Look, I agree with him. Again, it'll never happen. But you know what? Let me say this. I don't know if it'll never happen because I think social media has given us an insight into the athlete that we never had before.
Yeah.
We see a lot more where the veil comes down on social media as opposed to being just in front of reporters. So you had guys where they would answer the same rote questions over and over again, and then you had them, now they're on social media where they control the message. Now that message a lot of time is nonsense, but still it's their message. So maybe at some point we'll see somebody actually grow a set and be like, I'm going there for the money, I'm going there because I hate it here, blah, blah, blah.
Number 7, Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor had their media tour all last week, and many believe it was a complete disaster. At one point during one of the stops, McGregor told Mayweather to, quote, dance, boy, and Mayweather draped himself with the Irish flag. As the fight inches closer and closer, Mayweather has asked the IRS for a tax reprieve until after his fight with McGregor due to owing over $22 million in back taxes. As for McGregor, he recently sparred with boxer Paulie Malignaggi for 8 rounds, and the two-weight world champion was impressed overall with his punching power and strategy. Maddie, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the least, how surprised are you that this has turned into a complete farce?
Is 0 an option?
No.
Because here's the thing, that's all this ever was. That's all this ever was. Because never in the history of the world has there been this many people saying it is impossible for one person to do something else. And the people who do think that McGregor don't want to give it all and just say that McGregor has no chance, they always say the same thing. Well, it's boxing, so anybody can land a punch. Like, that's not a glowing endorsement for McGregor winning. They're basically saying if McGregor wins, it's freaking luck. It's only about luck. And to me, why the hell would you watch it? Why would you go in watching something where you know one guy's going to win, and that if he doesn't win, it's just, what do you do? What do you do? This whole thing is so ludicrous, and it's $100. It's $100.
Again, I mean, at this point, we talked about it last week. We all knew this was going to be nothing but a BS exhibition. And this is, again, why am I not surprised? I mean, watching it, it's tough to watch. Like, I actually watched some of it on YouTube, and
brutal.
it is really tough to watch. Not only that, but they make the fans wait forever until they finally show up,
right.
And then all they do is curse at each other, and then they just start, getting into bad-mouthing each other. I mean, I don't know if McGregor's a racist or not, but he comes pretty close, in my opinion. And then on top of that, you just have Mayweather acting like an idiot, too. I mean, it's a complete waste of time, but the whole point is to generate money, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars off this fight.
It's also, like, it's infuriating to listen to because all they do is curse at each other.
Yeah.
So when you watch it, like, on the news, it's just beep, 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 beep,
Yeah.
beep, 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 beep. Although the thing that McGregor said to Draymond on Instagram was pretty funny.
Yeah.
When he's wearing the CJ.
Yeah.
CJ.
I saw it.
I don't even know. Like, McGregor is a douche, like of epic proportion.
But he's funny, though.
But
sometimes
he's funny. And when you're going up against Draymond and nobody likes Draymond and nobody likes McGregor, then it's funny to me. So, I'm good with that. Number 8, the Red Sox have officially released Pablo Sandoval after designating him for assignment last week and not finding any takers. Sandoval hit only .237 in 161 games for the Red Sox and was once again on the DL, this time for an ear infection. He signed a $95 million contract with Boston back in November of 2014 and is cut after only his second year. It didn't take long for Sandoval to find a new home, as barring a failing a physical, he will return to San Francisco and sign a minor league deal with the Giants. Craig, does Sandoval going to the Giants make any sense this late in the season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, San Francisco's a bad team. He was a good player for them. They liked him, and, why not? I guess the fans give something the fans to cheer about. It's like the equivalent of when the Mets got Jose Reyes, or when other players, like even when the Yankees got Clemens that year, when he made the announcement during the 7th inning stretch, right? Sometimes just going back just for the sole purpose of going back is not necessarily a bad thing. And for the Giants, they're out of it. They're not competing for anything this year. Why not? I have no problem with it whatsoever. But this does go down as one of the worst contracts in Major League Baseball history.
And the Red Sox have signed a lot of them. Carl Crawford is one of the worst contracts in history, too. I have no problem with this from Giants' perspective. They're probably paying him league minimum at best. So they don't have to pay him any money, which is great for them. They bring back a fan favorite in a time where they suck, and they want people to come to the stadium. And you know what? If they make a run next year, the guy was super clutch for them in the playoffs. Yeah. And so maybe they hit lightning in a bottle again.
He's always been a good hitter.
The Red Sox.
Listen, he's always been a good hitter. It's just a case of he just never really found his niche in Boston.
He's just a big fat guy who got hurt a lot in Boston. Actually, you know what it is? I think it's Boston media. And if we got like one or 2 minutes before we got to go, so I just want to say this real quick. And you can see it getting to people, right? Because David Price, if you heard about the thing with Eckersley. Now, let me say this. Eckersley, you know what? You better shut the hell up, David Price, because Eckersley was a better pitcher than you. Significantly better pitcher than you, especially in the playoffs where you suck. You suck. You're going to go after a guy whose worst moment in the playoffs was giving up the home run to, oh my God, Dodgers going like Kirk Gibson. That's his worst moment, and he had tons of great ones. Yeah. So you're talking to a Hall of Famer who is great in the clutch. I think it's time for you to shut your mouth.
And with that, closing time is officially over.
There you go.
And this episode of Polar Opposites, you got to end on a high. I mean, come on.
Sure. I like to always end on a high.
And with that, this episode of Polar Opposites is over, and we'd like to thank everybody for listening as always. Check us out at polaropposites.podbean.com as well as iTunes, and follow us on Twitter at polaropposites1, also available on Spreaker.com as well. Back next week with all new show. We'll do some training camp preview. We'll talk some baseball. The trade deadline will be on Monday, so we'll do the backlash from the trade deadline and anything else we could squeeze into this podcast. So once again, enjoy the week, enjoy the games, enjoy life, and we will talk again next week.
Bye.